Look around you. Your neighbor just got a new automatic. Your colleague drives something with a touchscreen bigger than your TV. Your friend upgraded last year, and the year before that. Everyone around you seems to be moving forward, and you're still sitting behind a stick shift, still pressing the clutch, still changing gears yourself, still driving the same way you learned decades ago. And people have noticed. Maybe they said something. Maybe they just gave you a look. You still drive manual? Why don't you just get something newer? Isn't that uncomfortable in traffic? And somewhere underneath all of it, a quiet question you've probably never said out loud. Am I behind? Or did I understand something they gave up without realizing it? Let's be honest about what people assume. When someone sees you drive manual in 2026, they think one of several things. You drive manual because you can't afford automatic. Simple as that. Manual cars cost less. Everyone knows it. So the conclusion feels obvious. You're cutting corners. You're making do with what you have. Or they think you just haven't kept up. Manual transmission is old technology. Before computers, before touchscreens, before cars that park themselves and warn you when you drift lanes. Choosing manual today is like choosing a flip phone. It signals you're living in the past. Some people go further. They point to electric cars, driverless cars, the entire direction the industry is moving. Manual transmission is being engineered out of existence. New manual cars are already rare. In 10 years, they may be gone completely. So holding onto one feels like holding onto a typewriter. And then there's the practical complaint. Nobody else can drive your car in an emergency. Stuck in traffic with a clutch is exhausting. Stalling at intersections. Hill starts in the rain. Why would anyone choose this when automatic exists? Every one of those judgments sounds reasonable. Every one of them misses something completely. Here is what automatic drivers don't understand. There is something that happens when you drive manual that is almost impossible to explain to someone who has only ever driven automatic. The clutch is not just a pedal. It is a conversation between you and the car. You feel through your foot when the engine is ready. You feel through your hand when the gear is right. You hear through the engine note exactly what the car needs next. The manual driver is not operating a vehicle. They are driving one. Think about what automatic driving actually involves. 2 inputs, accelerator and brake. The car does everything else. It selects the gear, it manages the power, it smooths out every transition automatically. You point it and it goes. Now think about manual. Clutch, gear, accelerator, brake, steering, 5 things happening simultaneously. Reading the road, reading the traffic, reading the engine, feeling when to shift before the rev counter tells you, knowing exactly how much clutch to give on a wet hill, understanding the difference between how the car sounds at 2,000 RPM and 3,000 RPM, and knowing what each one means. That is not inefficiency, that is engagement. The automatic driver gets transported, the manual driver actually drives. And science noticed something interesting about this difference. Professor Ryuta Kawashima, the researcher behind Nintendo's Brain Age, studied what happens in the brain when people drive manual versus automatic. He found that driving manual activates the prefrontal cortex significantly more than automatic driving. The constant coordination of clutch, gears, throttle, and traffic requires the brain to process multiple things at once. That mental engagement keeps the areas responsible for memory, attention, and decision-making actively working. Every single commute, every single journey. The manual driver was getting genuine brain exercise, while the automatic driver sat passively and waited to arrive. The person who was called old-fashioned for driving manual was actually keeping their mind sharper than everyone who upgraded around them. But there is something else nobody talks about, something bigger than the driving experience. Open the bonnet of a manual car built 20 or 30 years ago. You can see everything. You can understand what you're looking at. Most things can be fixed in your own driveway with basic tools: a leaking seal, a worn clutch, a faulty sensor. These are repairs a person can learn, repairs a person can do themselves, repairs that cost the price of parts, not the price of a dealership appointment and a diagnostic computer only the manufacturer owns. Now open the bonnet of a modern automatic, sealed, locked, software-controlled. A warning light comes on, and you cannot find out what it means without plugging in proprietary equipment you don't own. A simple repair becomes a dealership visit, because the system won't allow anything else. You don't fully own a modern automatic the way you think you do. You are permitted to use it, on the manufacturer's terms, with the manufacturer's software. Repaired only where the manufacturer allows. The manual driver owns something different. They know their car, they can open it, fix it, maintain it, understand every sound it makes. Nobody can lock them out of their own machine. That is not poverty, that is real ownership, and real ownership is increasingly rare. Think about what kind of person still drives manual in 2026. They are the same person who kept the same car for 20 years when everyone said upgrade. The same person who stayed in the same house when everyone said move somewhere bigger. The same person who paid off every debt and never borrowed again. The same person who fixed things instead of throwing them away. The same person who stayed in their marriage when leaving would have been easier. All the same instinct. Stay engaged. Stay connected to what you're doing. Don't let the machine think for you. Don't trade real ownership for the appearance of progress. Don't confuse convenience with improvement. In a world that is automating everything, driving, thinking, deciding, even feeling, the manual driver made a quiet, specific choice to keep both hands on the wheel, to stay present inside their own life, to remain in conversation with the things they own rather than just consuming them. That is not stubbornness. That is not poverty. That is not an old mindset. That is a philosophy. And it is the same philosophy that runs through everything else about how these people live. So, are they right? Is the manual driver cheap, old-fashioned, stuck in the past? Look at what they actually chose. They chose a car they can fix themselves, over a car sealed from their own hands. They chose to stay engaged, over choosing convenience. They chose real ownership, over paying to use something. They chose to keep their brain active on every single commute, when everyone around them handed that job to a machine. The neighbors upgraded, the colleagues moved on, the friends got the touchscreen and the parking sensors, and the car that changes gears by itself, and you still press the clutch, still feel the gear click into place at exactly the right moment. Still drive, not operate, not use, not get transported. Drive. They call that old-fashioned. You call it yours. And every single time you feel that gear change click perfectly into place, you understand something they gave up the day they switched to automatic. Do you still drive manual? What car are you driving, and how many years have you been behind that stick shift? And what is the one thing about it you could never fully explain to someone who has only ever driven automatic? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one.